everyone, we're back. Make sure you guys check in, please. So Ron and Josh, you guys spent the whole 4 hours on speaker with each other? All right. Do you FaceTime as well while you're here FaceTiming? No? Okay. Hey, Sanam, good evening. All right, make sure everybody checks in. Hey, we got Jonathan in the house as well. What's up, Jonathan? All right, make sure you guys have your cameras on, please, everyone. Hey, Jose, how are you? Also, guys, make sure your name on Zoom matches who you are. Check that as well. Sure. All right, I see you guys don't have any questions because you haven't dropped any questions in the chat, so we're good. Everybody studied hard chapter 11, right? Agency. All right, Sanam is asking on YouTube, do we have a realtors networking group? There's plenty. Unfortunately, you have to search them up, but there's on Facebook, meetup.com, there's a lot of network groups. Okay. Eduardo, no, I don't see you in the camera. No, you might have to restart your computer, maybe. All right, Madian, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Is there a national website to schedule the state exam? So there's no national websites. There's 2 or 3 major players across the United States. PSI is the biggest one. But the school where you took the exam should have all those instructions. I'm not sure if Georgia uses PSI or if it's another one. Let me check real quick while I'm waiting for Eduardo to restart his computer. Apparently, what you have to do is, so Madian, what you have to do is once you complete your education requirements, you must submit the official transcript from college, university, or school with your application to Applied Measurement Professionals. I think it's goamp.com. That's what it is over there. And if everything is in order, then they'll allow you to schedule the exam. Okay, so here we use PSI. Over there is goemp.com. Just confirm. Oh, actually, GoAmp was purchased by PSI. So once you, it's actually PSI as well. So you got to make sure you submit your info. Yeah, they acquired. So PSI acquired GoAmp. You have to go through them. Yep. Yeah, that's what it is. All right, so once you have uploaded here, we upload your credits. So the school is the one in New Jersey, is the one that uploads the credits. In Georgia, apparently you have to submit the transcript of what you've done, so the certificates to GoAmp, or it's called, again, Applied Measurement Professionals. Once you do, you'll receive a confirmation that you're ready to take the exam. Okay? And they'll send you all the links for that. Eduardo, I can see you now. Great. Everybody's logged in, checked in already. Yep, looks like we're good to go. Sorry guys for the delay, I just wanted to make sure everybody was on. All right, I'm taking the online course and it's really bad. Instructors never respond, but I already paid for it. We're almost done. That's why your videos have been helping me so much. All right, so Mariana, I apologize. We're still not in Georgia. We are looking to expand throughout this year. In fact, I have a few instructors that are going to start teaching the following classes here in New Jersey to help me out as I begin this expansion process. So I apologize you had a bad experience. I'm glad you found this. And you're always welcome to participate in the YouTube chat when we're live. Just ask questions. All right. If you need anything other than during the live, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp. Don't text me. WhatsApp 908-418-8325. All right, Josh, how do we go about getting certification for other states after taking New Jersey? So Josh, I'm going to address that in the final 2 weeks. As far as Jersey, there's no reciprocity. So a lot of states do not accept Jersey license. You have to go through the whole course again in that particular state. And I found that out the hard way because a few students, one thing is teaching it, another thing is I have a few students that moved to Georgia, for instance, or moved to Arizona, or moved to Texas. And here I am sending the transcript and a certification as a director of the school, and over there they go like, yep, we don't care. You got to do the whole 100 and something hours again. Over there is more hours than here in most states. Brenda, how long is the course with you? This course that we're doing right now, Brenda? It's 7 weeks. It's 75 hours. That's what it is. For Jersey, it's 75 hours. So it's going to be a total of 7 weeks because we're doing 3 days a week. And that will include also the exam. Okay. All right, I think everybody's ready. Go over this. We're good. All right, so we already talked about contracts. We talked about leases. We're going to talk about listing agreements. This is just an overview, as it says here. Pretty much basics or foundation of listings. Now, there is one thing that we talked about also the other day about who's the listing agent and who's the selling agent. Do you guys know how to distinguish those two? And let me know. Let me know in the chat. What is the difference between a listing agent, and a selling agent. Poliana? Okay. Listing agent. Okay, so Dre goes like, hey, listing equals selling and selling equals buyer. So wait, that means listing equals buyer? This is based on that association, right? If listing equals selling, then selling equals buyer, then for listing equals buyer. Eduardo, listing agent represents the seller of the property. Yes. So the listing means listing means advertising. So we're dealing with the seller. So I fixed the pen, but my penmanship still cannot fix it. I apologize. That's what it is. So we're dealing with the sellers. When we're advertising the property for sale. All right, let's see what else we got here. Gilbert, listing is the one who puts the house up, and selling is the one who makes the close. The one that puts the house up is actually a contractor and his subcontractors. But I like the way you brought it. Yes. So listing agent is the one that advertises the property or puts it on the market, puts the house up on the market. Yes. And the selling agent is the one that actually closes or brings a buyer to close. Correct. Josh said the listing agent is the one who's showing the property, and the selling agent is the one who actually finalizes the deal. So a buying agent shows the property. The listing agent just makes it available. Okay? So the reason why I asked these questions is actually to clarify these things. I just listed a property on Sunday, so yesterday was listed. There's a combo lockbox there, so when people go there, they just put the code. Am I showing the property? No, it's there, it's available. It's vacant, so you can go there and see the property whenever you want. You understand? So the listing agent is not the one showing the property. Could be if I'm there showing the property, but not necessarily. Let's go back to the fact that what a listing agent does is advertise the property. Okay, they put it up for advertisement, market the property. And then the selling agent, right, is the one that brings a buyer that's ready, willing, and able to close. Okay? So, listing agent represents the seller. Buying agent or selling agent represents the buyer. He's the one that concludes the sale. Okay? Good? Great. Sebastian, go. Love those. So, Bruno. Go ahead. By the way, guys, I don't like to sit down much. If you guys notice, I'm always standing. But today, I finally finished setting up. I got one of those desks that goes up and down, and I got a chair. So we'll see how it goes. If I don't feel comfortable, because I think when I've seen a lot of classes that people are sitting down teaching, and it goes into a monotone. It's like everybody's dying. Like while I'm standing, I have to have that movement, that energy going, right? That's why I like to do it standing the whole time, but we'll see. Let's say you are the listing agent and bring a buyer. Wouldn't that be a referral? Hold on. I'm the listing agent. Oh, and you bring a buyer. How would that be a referral? A referral, Sebastian, is if you call me up and say, hey, Bruno, I have a buyer, but I don't have the time to deal with the buyer. Could you handle it? So now I'm the listing and the buying agent, and you are the referral agent. You just referred. You got it? Plan? Good? You guys good? So a referral agent, all he or she does is refer. I don't have the time. Could you do it for me? And in turn, obviously, compensate me for that referral. That's all. All right, so let's talk about review of legal foundations. When we talk about a listing, if you guys remember when we talk about contracts, we mentioned that a listing briefly, and now we're going to go in detail. We mentioned that a listing involves two laws. There's agency law and there's contract law, right? Under agency law, since you guys studied all over since Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you guys studied chapter 11 like crazy, right? You guys know what agency is. What is agency? When we're talking about agency law, what are we talking about? Meanwhile, YouTubers, let me know. Jose just mentioned that it's breaking up a little bit, the sound. YouTubers, let me know if the sound is good. Just want to make sure if it's not Jose's connection. All right, Andrea M. wrote management. Eduardo, employer-employee relationship. Perfect. So agency. Hold on. There we go. Agency is employer dash employee. There's not enough room for all this. Let me clear this. See if I can make it even thinner. Nope. There you go. Employer, employee relationship. So agency is what defines how I represent the buyer or how I represent the seller. Why? Because when there's an agent, right? Because your license is not real estate agents, right? What is your license? Salesperson, right? So Poliana just said salesperson. Your license is real estate salesperson. Yes. So you only become agents or qualified as agents when you are hired. Okay? If you're hired by the buyer in an agency capacity, then you represent the buyer. If you're hired by the seller in an agency capacity, then you represent the seller. Okay? So the agency law, guys, the agency law is what defines who you are in the transaction. Okay? Agency. All right, let's see. Okay, sound is good. Okay, so it might be you, Jose. Your connection there. All right, so employer-employee relationship is agency. How we represent somebody. You guys got to be clear about this, because like I said, 25%, 20 to 25% of the exam is based on agency law. Okay, 20 to 25% of the exam is based on agency law. So you have to know this clearly. All right, it has to be something that when I ask a question, boom, you got it. Guarantee you, 20 to 25% of the exam, if not more. Brenda, so once you're hired, you're an agent, and when you finish the job, you aren't an agent until you get hired again. For that person, you're only an agent for whoever hires you. You're a salesperson in general. So Brenda, you want to buy a house? I can be your agent, or I can operate as a transaction broker, where I'm not your agent. All right, remember we talked about the implications of being a client or a customer? Okay, we talked about this last week, client or customer. A client is somebody that we dedicate to. A customer is somebody that we're just helping out in the transaction. That's it. No commitment. Meaning, no, I don't have to go above and beyond for that person. You got it? So you're an agent for your client if you're hired in that capacity. If not, then you're just, your license is a salesperson license. Got it, Brenda? Yep, okay, great. All right. You wrote until you're hired again. So let me ask you something. So let's say I come up to you and say, hey, Brenda, I want to sell a property. right? I would like you to represent me to the best of your ability. So, Brenda, if you accept this, then you have to be my agent. It's to the best of your ability is an agent's capacity. So you're my agent, right? But then I also tell you, hey, Brenda, I want to buy a house. I'm selling this one, but I want to buy a house. You guys follow me so far? You're my seller agent, right? Because I'm the seller. But then you're going to help me to buy a house. You're my buyer agent. Okay, so you represent me as a buyer as well. Once we sell the house, the agency relationship ended as far as the sale of the house, but still continues as far as buying a house. Every contract is separate. So if you represent me on the sale of my house, you're my agent in that capacity for sales only. If you represent me also in the buying a house, you're my agent in that capacity for buying a house. You understand? But I can say, hey, I don't want you to represent me to buy a house. I want you to just, help me prepare the paperwork and make sure that I do everything in order, right? Then you could be operating as a transaction broker on the purchase. You represent me on the sale, right, as an agent. But for the buying purposes, I really don't need much more of an effort there from you. So transaction broker is fine. Your liability on the sale is high. Your liability on the buy is low. Why? Because here you have to be fully committed to me. Above and beyond is where you have to go. While here, you're just facilitating the transaction. You're just helping me make sure that I do the things I need to do. Right? But I cannot expect more from you. Are you guys understanding this? The difference between being an agent or not, and when you're an agent? If you hire me in both capacities, on the sale and the purchase, you're my agent in two different contracts. One for the sale, one for the purchase. Later on, a year from now, you hire me again to buy another house or to sell my house, whatever, you could be my agent then. I mean, if I hire you, you're my agent then. Okay? From the closing of one and the purchase of another, there's a gap. During that gap, hey, we're friends. That's it. You're not my agent. We're friends. Okay? And this is something, it's complicated to understand because in real life, we always talk about my real estate agents. If you didn't hire them, then they're not. All right? So I'm going to try to help you guys as much as I can, drill as much as I can this part where you get to separate what's real life and what you used to, right? And what's exam and what the real laws are, okay? So when I talk about my real estate agent or anything like that, if I'm not actively working with this person, they're not my agent. They're a real estate salesperson. Okay, if I'm actively working with them and I hire them in a agency capacity, then they are my agents. You got it? Thumbs up. Great. Good. Awesome. All right, and then, like I said, there's two laws that we go over. It's the agency law and contract law. Now, the listing defines how we're going to represent the seller, right? But then it also has contract law. What is contract law? Contract law, if you guys remember, it's what will determine if the contract is valid, void, voidable, right? Or valid but unenforceable. And how do we determine those things? Does anybody remember to figure out if it's a valid contract? Again, several questions will be around this as well. What determines if it's a valid contract? Marlon says written. Nope. Can we not have a verbal agreement or contract? Competent parties, yes. Look at that. All right. Looks good. They will adjust and everything. All right. Let's see. Competent parties, absolutely. You have to have two consenting parties to the term. So offer and acceptance or meeting of the minds. There you go. Meets the requirements. Ron, I don't know what's metal consent. Is this like heavy metal? It's, you know, the lighter side of rock. I don't know where do we fall on this one. Has to be Andrea M. Has to be 2 patents. I'm lost on that one. Oh, mutual. Okay, you corrected after. 2 parts. Okay, got it. Good faith. Absolutely. Valuable consideration. Legal reason or legal purpose, actually. Okay. Dark side of the moon. There you go. All right, cool. On YouTube, we have Miss Dobson. Meeting of the minds, competent party. Correct. Jose wrote valid, meets all the requirements. Great. So the requirements are that we have competent parties. That means we're all adults and we are of sound mind, or whatever the state allows, if they allow minors and so on. But usually the term is for adults and of sound mind. There has to be offer and acceptance, and that means that we agree to the terms that I'm offering and you accept those terms, so meeting of the minds. There has to be consideration, which is exchange of value, right? If I'm performing a service, you have to pay for that service. That has to be exchanged. So if I'm your realtor and I represent you in an agency capacity or not, doesn't matter. I'm helping you. So there has to be compensation, as an example. That's consideration. And legal purpose. Okay? So legal purpose means we're dealing with the right type of Coke, if you guys remember, right? So I'm helping you, I'm asking you to sell Coke for me, and I'll give you $1 million for the sale of Coke. Obviously, Coca-Cola, it's a valid transaction. If it's the other type of Coke, unfortunately, it's not a valid contract or transaction, which is a good thing. I don't have to pay you. But thank you for selling it for me. Right? That's it. You cannot take me to court. No, he said $1 million for me to sell Coke. I say, Your Honor, first of all, I don't have $1 million, and I never had the Coke. You see what I'm saying? You can't take me to court on something that's not valid. All right? And only one person wrote this, which was Ron, good faith, right? So good faith means, obviously, if you're competent parties, you know what you're doing. Good faith means you're doing everything out of your free, voluntary act, okay? And that you believe that I'm acting in good faith and that you're acting in good faith when it comes to this transaction. So we're both fully aware of all the terms and details to the transaction, okay? Free, voluntary act in good faith. So that's what contract law is. So when you represent somebody in the listing, that's what we're going to go over. When you represent somebody in the listing, these 2 laws have to be there. How do I represent you? And we're legal adults, sound mind, we understand the terms. I'm not hiding from you that I'm charging you 10%. You see it right there on paper, right? You're not hiding from me that you are the owner of the property or not, right? You're telling me exactly what it is. So we're mutually actually acting in good faith once we enter this transaction. Again, nothing's being hidden from either party. Okay? So cornerstones of agency law in the context of a listing agreement are, as I said, the definition of the roles of the parties involved, the fiduciary duties of the agent, what you can expect from me, and the agent's scope of authority. What can I do for you? Like, to what extent can I represent you? If I find a buyer, guys, if I find a buyer for your house, can I accept the offers on your behalf? Well, did you give me that authority? That's the question. So that's what the scope of authority means. Did you give me that authority? Right? Power of attorney or anything like that, right? Can I make a decision on the offer for you or anything else for you? Can I disclose certain things for you? Can I go to fix the house, whatever needs to be fixed for you? So the scope of authority determines what I'm going to do for you and what you allow me to do for you. Okay, so again, the roles of the parties, what do you expect from me? What are my duties? and how far can I go in this transaction? Okay, we already covered this. You guys already know the parties. Oh, actually, let me ask you something. If you guys are taking the real estate salesperson course, right? Just want to make sure. Yes. So if you go knock on doors right now, you go knock on doors, and you knock on a door and say, hey, I would like to help you sell your house. It's in a great market right now. It's really hot. You bought the house over 7 years ago, as an example, and you gained so much value in the property. Now's the right time to sell before it goes down. All right? Let's say this is your speech. Don't do it like I just did. I'm just trying to show something. You don't open the door and say, I'd like to sell your house. But let's say that's what you did. And the seller said, great. I really wanted to sell my house. I'm so glad somebody stopped by, right? And you guys come into an agreement. You agree to everything, which we're going to talk about in a second. We agree to the commission. We agree the term, which, again, we're going to lay all this down. We agree to the term, how long this listing is going to last, right? How much we're going to pay, what are you going to, okay, all that stuff. The question is, the agreement, listing agreement you guys just signed when you knocked on that door and they accepted it, right, is between you and the client? Who are the parties to this agreement? You knocked on the door. You signed the agreement with the seller. Who are the parties, or who's involved in this transaction? The agreement is between the seller and who? Yeah. Okay, the owner, so that's a seller, and who? Okay, Gilbert says listing agent. Marlon says listing broker. Mariah says broker. Come on. Never be afraid to answer. Whatever you say, it's fine. This is not the test yet. Ron wrote client. Okay. And prospect. Okay. I'll address that in a second, Ron. Eduardo says broker and the client. I know you want to say it. Say it, say it, say it. Anybody else? I went to knock on the door. I signed something with the client, the seller. The agreement is between who? Which parties? Listing broker and the client, not you. Guys, you're not a party to the transaction because you cannot get paid from the transaction. The broker gets paid, and then the broker will split with you because you're an agent of the broker. You become what's called a sub-agent of the client. So you are considered a listing agent, okay? You are considered the listing agent because you're the one accomplishing the listing, okay? But who do you represent, guys? Who do you represent? As an agent, listing agent, who do you represent first? The answer is you represent the broker. And the broker, through you, represents the client. It always, always, always goes back to this. None of the actions are yours, guys. None of the actions are yours. Because you get paid by the broker, right? And the broker gets paid by the client or customer, whoever agreed to pay. All right? You can never get paid directly in any transaction. Therefore, who do you represent? You represent your broker, and any action, listing agreement or buying agreement, any action is on behalf of the broker. So when you go knock on that door, You're going to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. potential seller. So prospect, as Ron was saying. We're not in the contract yet, so they're prospects, right? Mr. or Mrs. potential seller, my name is Bruno on behalf of New Direction Realty. Okay? On behalf of New Direction Realty. You don't represent yourselves, you represent the agency. You guys understand this? You have to be clear about this as well, because no contract is between the client and you directly. All the contracts are between the client and your broker. This is key that you guys understand. Okay? You are not part of any direct contract. We are the ones that prepare the contract. Okay? We are the ones that prepare the contract. We're the ones knocking on the door. We're the ones hunting for the deal. Right? On behalf of your broker. Right? This is why the broker takes a small cut of everything you do. They give you the bulk of it because you do the bulk of the transaction. You do most of the legwork. The broker is supposed to oversee you. That's it. And that's what's going to be on the next chapter. That's what we're going to talk about more in detail. Brokerage. Okay? The broker is supposed to train you and oversee you, make sure that you're not committing any crime or making any mistakes when representing somebody, right? So everything you do is on behalf of the broker. The broker is the one that represents the client. The broker is the one that gets paid by the client, not you. Okay? Now, fiduciary duties, you guys already know. Scope of authority, we already talked about. I think you guys already know what this means, right? Bilateral or unilateral agreement. Bilateral means both parties must do something. Unilateral, one does something if the other did something first. Right? So we talked about this under contracts. Okay. It says here that listings may be bilateral, unilateral. I'm going to go more in detail later on. Validity, we already talked about it. Termination, it's obvious. We talked about this as far as contracts. It could be mutual agreement. It could be expiration of the term. Like it was a 6-month listing. Hey, it's 6 months and 1 day. Sorry. It's expired, right? Mutual consent, invalidity, lack of ability or feasibility to sell, and legal form. Now, Marlon, you said to be valid before, you said it had to be in writing. No. Contracts could be oral or written, either or. Oral or written. Okay? The thing about oral contracts is, how can you enforce it? It's very difficult for you to enforce something that's oral. Okay? Written contracts, however, it's in writing, both parties sign, we can take this to court, easy. Right? Now, if you guys remember, we did say that most states require that anything that's related to transfer of real estate, right, to be in writing, right? So if the seller is selling and the buyer is buying, the transfer must be documented in writing. If it's a long-term lease, that long-term lease must also be in writing if it's after a certain amount of years. Okay, if it's for more than a certain amount of years. When it comes to listing agreements and commission, what do you guys think? Should it be in writing if it involves commission? Let me know. Yes, of course. But certain states do allow an oral listing to exist. All right. The problem is contested oral listing must be supported by considerable evidence. You have to have, like, this is why I tell you guys, always keep records of everything. Right? Didn't we talk about this? I told you I have records back to 2008, right? And I don't have more because, unfortunately, back then I was switching from a BlackBerry to a Samsung, and for some reason, some of the stuff got lost in the process. But always evidence. A broker may not be able to sue a principal for damages incurred under an oral lease. Right? Gotta prove it. If the client dies, a broker may not be able to obtain compensation for a successfully performed oral listing. So you found the buyer, and then the seller died. Your contract was with who? With the seller. The seller's no longer alive. And your contract was verbal. So how can you enforce collecting that commission from the heirs or whoever? It's very, very difficult. Okay? So you should always have it in writing. Now, an express listing. An express listing, verbal or written, manifestly authorizes the broker to pursue certain actions for the client. Clients and agents may also create an implied agency listing based on substantive actions rather than on express agreement. You guys should be clear about this already. Expressed or implied contracts. You should be clear about this by now. One is based on what we expressed to each other or told each other. The other one's based on actions, what we expect from each other. Okay? There are things that I expect you as a seller to do. I don't have to tell you. It's expected that you have to open the door, right? If I'm going to show the house, you should be able to be there. We didn't schedule, right? But when I call you, pick up the phone, and because I'm trying to schedule something. It's implied, right? If you want your house sold. Okay? As an agent, it's implied, like if you guys ever saw a listing agreement, if not, then maybe I'll show it later if we have time. But a listing agreement stipulates the commission, stipulates how long it's going to last, what the property is, who are the parties, are we going to put on the MLS or not, right? But it doesn't stipulate every Tuesday I'm going to show your house. But it's implied that I'm taking actions that every Tuesday or every Wednesday or every day of the week, I'm taking action, positive action, right, to potentially bring buyers or potential buyers to your house. Implied actions. Okay? So that's an implied agency. Okay? Types of listing agreements. Okay. I don't want you to what I just did right now, don't do it yet. I just want to point something out. These are 3 legal types of agency agreements, or I'm sorry, listing agency agreements. I'm going to explain better why it's legal, right, and why it's illegal, because this last one, in most states, it's been outlawed. You cannot use in almost any state, net listing, okay? So the first 3 are legal. Again, we'll explain later. Now, these first 2 have one thing in common. 1, open listing. Many. Okay? Okay. This is what I want you to remember. When you have exclusive listing, right? We're talking about having one agent. Don't forget, the agent is the broker, not you. Okay? So when we sign an exclusive listing, it's exclusive with who? With Weichert, with Remax, with New Direction Realty. When we sign an exclusive agreement, whether exclusive right to sell or exclusive agency, means that we have one brokerage that's advertising the property. If we have an open listing, we have many brokerages and many agents advertising the property. All right? Now, what I want you to write is this. Marriage. Okay? I'm going to explain in a second. Okay. So the first one, I want you to write marriage or remarried, right? The second one, I want you to write engagement or fiancé, right? And the third one, I want you to write open relationship. I'm going to explain all this in a second. Good? All right. So let's start with open listing. We're going to start from the bottom and then move up. So open listing, I wrote here open relationship. Think about it, you're dating, right? But you're a teenager, so maybe you're an adult. I don't want to offend anybody, but you're open relationship and you just want to, hey, no commitment, just trying it out. Could be for one night, it could be for 1 week, it could be for, hey, we agree as many people as we want throughout the week, throughout the year, throughout our lives. Open relationship. There's no real commitment. You guys understand? There's no real commitment. An open listing is the same thing. We go knock on several doors, talk to several brokers or several agents from different agencies and say, hey, if you have a buyer, let me know. By the way, I'm going to go right across the street. I'm going to knock on that door and also ask them if they have buyers. Let me know. So there's no real commitment here. If you find a buyer before anybody else, I'll pay you. If you find a buyer before anybody else, I'll pay you. That's what an open relationship is. And the seller, potential sellers, is jumping around the different brokerages, and whoever is available that day and finds a buyer that day, that's who you're committed to. Okay? Doesn't sound that bad, right? The next one is exclusive agency. Once we get into the exclusives, there is some type of commitment, like engaged, right? When we're engaged, the way it's supposed to work, right? You are committed to that one person. We're not married yet. What does that mean? It means that right before the marriage, I can jump out of this relationship and go into another without many consequences, right? Except maybe we have to pay for split the expense of the marriage. Maybe, I don't know, because we did prepare everything for the wedding, right? We just didn't get married. So maybe that's what it is. In exclusive agency, so the one that's the engagement, you are now committed to one brokerage, and one brokerage is fully committed to you. But just like an open listing, one thing that I did not mention about open listing is that if I find a buyer through my own efforts, I'm the seller, by the way, right? If I find a buyer through my own efforts, let's say in both of these, the open listing and the exclusive agency, I'm sitting at the dining room table and I have my family around, and my cousin goes like, oh, Bruno, I heard that you were selling your house. And I'm like, yeah, I am selling my house. My cousin goes like, hey, listen, I always loved your house, and you're going to sell it, let me give it a try first. Let me see if I can qualify to buy the house. Let me buy it from you, right? If we settle that at the kitchen table, I'm sorry, a dining room table, if that's where we settled, without any realtor involved, both open listing and exclusive agency, I don't have to, both open listing or exclusive agency, I don't have to pay commission to anybody. Okay? Jose, can you explain what you just wrote on YouTube? I'm sorry, a little lost. All right, so don't have to pay anything. Now, let's go to the top one. The exclusive right to sell. Exclusive right to sell. We're married. Okay? Without being offensive to anyone, I just want you, it's a term, it's an expression, an old expression, so I don't want anybody to be offended. But have you ever heard the term is cheaper to keep her? Cheaper to keep her, right? Or vice versa, right? Sometimes it's better for you to stay in that relationship than it is for you to get out, because it's going to be very expensive, right? So the reason why I compare exclusive right to sell to a marriage is, if you want to get out, you can, but I still owe you commission, or you still, or vice versa, depending on who's representing who. All right? Because we're now fully committed. Open relationship or open listing, we're not committed. If you find a buyer, Mariah, great. Louis, if you find a buyer, great. Eduardo, if you find a buyer, great. I'll pay you if you find it. But I'm not committed to either one of you. Open listing. Exclusive agency, I'm now saying, hey, Josh, you're the one that's going to market my property. Nobody else. Okay? Now, can Louis, Mariah, and Eduardo bring a buyer? Yes. To Josh. You understand? Exclusive right to sell. Again, Joshua, you're the one, right? You're the one that's going to list the property, market the property. Can Louis, Mariah, and Eduardo bring a buyer? Yes. Again, to Josh. What is the difference between these? And I'm going to go over and over again. What is the difference between these? Is whether I have to pay you a commission, Josh, or not. Okay? Because if I'm at the dining room table with my cousin, and he decides to buy my property, even though it's listed with you as an exclusive right to sell, then Josh, you're still entitled to commission, no matter what. As long as the sale happened while your listing was in effect, let's say it's a 6-month listing, and 4 months later, my cousin says he wants to buy, that's it. That's your commission. Okay? So, in the exclusive right to sell, have to pay no matter what, as long as the sale happens. If a sale does not happen, nobody gets paid in either one of these. You guys got it? Exclusive means one agency is handling it. Okay? Exclusive right to sell means I have to pay no matter what. Exclusive agency, if you find a buyer, Josh, great. If I find a buyer, I don't have to pay you. And then open listing, I don't have to pay anybody unless they bring me a buyer. Pretty much, no commitment. All right? Eduardo, do you have to explain this to clients before you go into one of these agreements? Well, technically, yes. You have to explain the difference between them, because exclusive agency and exclusive right to sell are check boxes in the listing agreement. Why would you check a box without explaining to me the difference between them? The same way you're supposed to explain that commission is negotiable, as an example. But most agents, what they do? 6%. Some agents that I found out along these years, they bring the paper, they'll have you sign it, and don't worry about it, I'll fill it out later. You'll fill it out later? Can you please at least explain what's here so I know what I'm signing? Oh, don't worry about it. This is just standard forms. I'll come back later to take pictures. I'm just going to put it on the MLS right now. No. So, Eduardo, technically you have to be able to explain the difference between these. Yes. Okay. All right, let's see. Brenda, so you can hire someone, but if you find something before them, you don't have to pay. In exclusive agency, yeah, you don't have to pay. If it's exclusive right to sell, no matter if it was you finding the buyer or if it was an agent finding the buyer, you still have to pay commission, because it happened while the listing was in effect. This is the main reason why you have to explain these things. All right, so Louis, no problem, I got it. Dre's asking, do a lot of people choose the right to sell? Did you hear what I said a couple minutes ago? A lot of people don't even know. There's a checkbox. And agents show up and go like, check, 6%, And please sign here. I'll explain it all later. A lot of agents don't explain any of this because they don't know how to explain. Now here's a question for you guys. Which one of these three is the best for the client? Let me know. Gilbert, I'm sorry. I just saw your message on WhatsApp. You weren't able to get back into Zoom? There was an issue? What is your opinion? Which one? Exclusive right to sell, exclusive agency, or open listing? Which one do you think it's best? Pick one. You're answering as well, and they're all wrong, by the way. It's okay. Okay to be wrong. There's only one time you guys cannot be wrong, and that's during the exam. So until then, it's okay to be wrong. Well, give me one. Which one do you think is the best for the client? Not for you as an agent, for the client. The one that don't there's two that they might not have to pay. There's two of them, so which one? Marlon, you could sell on your own and avoid commission. Absolutely. For sale by owner. Right? The thing is, how long is it going to be on the market? How do people know that your house is for sale? If not your for sale sign or maybe a couple of ads that you run on the newspaper or maybe Craigslist. How do people know? All right. So 95% of the answers that I have here, let's say, talk about open listing. All right. By a show of hands, if you guys don't mind, by a show of hands, who's married? 2, 3. Okay, 4, 5. Some of you are still thinking, am I married? Okay, so we got 5 married. All right, by show of hands, who's committed or in a relationship? Okay, got a few more. All right, cool. Single, don't worry about it. Not that I'm discriminating, it's just for the point I'm about to make. I just told you that open listing is like an open relationship where there's no commitment. You can just jump around and have fun. Just make sure you don't bring anything home, right? That's pretty much what we're saying. And you just told me that open listing is the best for the client. Hey, client, go ahead, have fun. Find other realtors. Find other, right? No problem. Go ahead, have fun. That's the best for the clients? How's that the best for a client? Let me explain this. In an open listing, there's no commitment. Do you think all these agents are going to advertise your property? All these agents are going to actively look for buyers if there's no commitment? And I know I said, by the way, I know I said which one is the best for the client. But this has to do, so Ron asked monetarily. Okay, hold on. This has to do with exposure of the property. If I, as an individual, the seller, go knock on your door, Poliana, go knock on Gilbert's door, Eduardo's door, Sebastian's door, and I knock on everybody's door here and say, hey, if you have a buyer, please let me know. But I have no real commitment with you. What makes you think that you guys are going to have a commitment to my house? Are you going to take money out of your pockets to advertise a property that you don't even have a commitment to? Then it becomes like Marlon was saying, a for sale by owner. Yeah, the seller's trying to avoid commission. Great, right? Most of the times that's a big mistake. Try to avoid commission is going to cost you more in the long run. So monetarily, in the long run, because if for sale by owner stays on the market for too long, there's no exposure. Are you guys understanding this? I'm not saying it's wrong. To each its own. You want to be in an open relationship, that's on you. Have fun. But there's consequences. That's all. So now let's go to exclusive. Let's deal with one agent only. Think about it. Exclusive, now you're probably like, okay. It's only me. So now I'm going to put on the MLS. Now I might put on Craigslist. Maybe I'll advertise on Facebook Marketplace. Spend a few bucks on the targeted audiences, maybe, right? But are you going to be fully committed knowing that the agent, that the seller could jump ship last minute, like find a buyer on their own? Are you fully committed? Are you going to put all your money into advertising this property? Are you going to put all your focus into advertising this property? You should, because you're engaged, and the ultimate goal is to get to the altar, right? But we're still not married. You could have cold feet. You see what I'm saying in terms of commitment and how it can cost in the long run, right? Now, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, now that I explained the difference between these, I'd like to explain to you why I prefer exclusive right to sell, and I hope you do as well. Because an exclusive right to sell, like we're married. We're married, we're fully committed. That means I'm going to do this, and that to advertise your property. Together, we're going to have your property sold in no time because we are fully vested in your property. You see the difference? Okay. Which one is the best for the client? The one that produces the biggest exposure of their property. It's all about marketing. If your property is not being marketed, nobody buys it. Okay? So exclusive right to sell is the best for the client because that's where commitment is. Okay? Don't get me wrong, some sellers still try to go around this, right? It's marriage. Like nowadays, marriage, we know what it is. People still try to go around it. But if I catch you, you still owe me commission. There's true stories. I know a restaurant in Elizabeth, for instance, in Elizabeth, New Jersey, right? A restaurant where while the listing was in effect, the agent showed the restaurant to a client, right? Listing expired, and then a year later, the agent finds out that his buyer bought the property after the listing period. Okay, so the 6 months had expired. But who showed the property? Who brought the client? The agent did. So whose commission is it? The agent's commission. So if you find out that later on the buyer that you show the property to buys that particular property, hey, happened while we were married, you owe me money. Okay? That is different with the other ones. It gets trickier with the other ones. Let's see. All right, Josh. So the wisest thing to do when pitching this is to present a plan on how you can want to get this property sold. Absolutely. You want to show them that you're already committed to them and that now you just wait on them to commit. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not going to teach you how to do a listing presentation because it depends on where you're going to go. Your agency has their own ways to do it, wherever you're going to go sign up with. But yeah, when you get there, you should already get ready to commit. You're already getting down on one knee and say, hey, sign here, right? You already, like, I am vested. I'm fully committed. This is what I want to do with your property. A full-blown plan. And if they sign, exclusive right to sell, that's it. Ron, is no time limitation on that. We're going to talk about statute of limitations in a different chapter because every state has different statute of limitations. Certain things are 2 years, other things are 6 years, and others are 10 years. Okay, so in the state of New Jersey. So every state is different when it comes to that. So we follow the state's statutes of limitation. Okay. Sebastian, did you have your hand up like you want to ask something, or? Sebastian? Okay. I guess it was not for me. Oh, it is. I'm trying to get my camera to focus. Oh, okay, so you say hi to the camera? So it focuses? I don't know if you're saying, hey, stop, answer this. Like, let me know, okay? I'm trying to learn, but I'm not very good with sign language. Okay? All right. So that was it. And this one, net listing, illegal. Okay? Only because most states have outlawed. I'm going to go over this in a second. All right, guys? I pretty much already covered the whole chapter, or the majority of the chapter. The exclusive right to sell, please highlight in green or make a note on this. In an exclusive right to sell, if the buyer is procured during the listing period, as I was saying, the broker is entitled to commission regardless of who is the procuring cause. It doesn't matter who brought the buyer. In an exclusive right to sell, still have to pay. Okay? Those right to sell still have to pay. Next page. So we are on page 156. Under exclusive agency, right? It leaves it open for the seller to sell without the broker's assistance. And at this moment, no commission is owed. Okay? And then comes open listing. So, an open listing is non-exclusive. We already got that. And the broker who's first to perform under the terms of the listing is the sole party entitled to a commission. If the transaction occurs without a procuring broker, no commissions are payable. Like I said, no commitment. If you find it, great. If you don't find it, no worries. I cannot sue you. You cannot sue me for commission. Simple. It's open listing. As it says here, open listings are rare in residential brokerage because, again, the compensation factor. Okay. And here we go. Net listing. As I said, illegal, right? Now, net listing is when you're asking the seller, which we should ask in every single transaction, by the way. We should ask the seller, Mr. or Mrs. Potential Seller, right? Prospect. What is the lowest amount that you're willing to take out of this transaction? Okay? If they say, 200,000, this is the net to seller that you're asking for, right? That's what you want to know from them. 200,000 is the minimum, right? That's why it's called net listing, net to seller, right? But then the house is worth 400,000 and sells for 400,000. So fair market value and sales price. So let's say sold for the value. What we're saying in an open listing is, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, can I get the difference? Well, you think this is the best for the seller? Because ultimately, guys, this is what you need to remember. We're not working for us, we're working for the seller. We'll make money in every single transaction if we're thinking about the client. If you're thinking about monies only, right, then you will not sell. You will lose. Eventually, you'll get caught in something. Okay? But if you're thinking about your client the whole time, okay, in their best interest, because that's your fiduciary duty, then transactions will happen. This right here, $200,000 net to you, because you met the client's net value, is not in the client's best interest. It's great to make $200,000 commission, but it was not the client's best interest. State of New Jersey, like most states, as an example, we are performance-based states. What does that mean? We ask for a percentage or we give a flat fee up front. We don't wait to figure out, hey, let's figure out what the market brings. No. We say 6% of whatever it sells for, as an example. Or we say $20,000 or whatever, $24,000 of a commission. So either flat fee or percentage based. But we don't say, hey, don't worry about it. When the property sells, I'll figure out the commission with you. No. Most states require that you negotiate upfront how much your commission is going to be. So there's no surprises like this. Okay? So net listing is one in which the owner sets a minimum acceptable amount to be received from the transaction and allows the broker to have any amount received in excess of commission, assuming that the broker has earned a commission according to the terms of the agreement, and the owner's net may or may not account for closing costs. That's the problem. For example, a seller requires $75,000 for a property. The broker sells the property for $83,000 and receives the difference of $8,000 commission. That's over 10% commission. Crazy, right? So as it says here, net listings net listings are regarded as unprofessional today, and many states have outlawed them. The argument against net listing is that it creates a conflict of interest for the broker, because again, now you're looking at you versus your client. These are outlawed or illegal. Sounds like wholesaler. Hold on. Sounds like wholesalers working for real estate investors. Well, yeah, I guess you can look at it that way. Gilbert, what's the biggest commission you've seen, you or someone else you know, with exclusive right to sell? Money-wise or percentage-wise? Because the biggest commission, it could be on a $100 million transaction, right? As an example. But percentage-wise, if it's commercial, 10% is very acceptable. If it's residential, usually 6%, 7%. We've done 8% in certain cases. But that's stretching it. Okay. Andrea M. Sorry, my bat just died. Are we allowed to have bats at home? Anybody? Is this a... Oh, battery. Oh, okay. Sorry, I saw bat. I mean, I don't know if that's a pet now. Sebastian, don't eat it. Wow. This sounds crazy, right? It says, my bat just died. Sebastian goes, don't eat it. And Andrea goes, I was out. Consequences of eating a bat. I'm telling you. Anyway, crazy stuff. All right, next. Let's skip this. I already talked about it, covered it. Transaction broker agreement. You guys already know what transaction broker is, right? Who can explain to me what transaction broker is? Mediator. Perfect. Mediator or facilitator of a transaction. That means it's a non-agency relationship, as it says. So, if it's a non-agency, you are not my client. You are my customer. Okay? So therefore, we still get paid. in the transaction, but we don't have customers. We don't have clients, we have customers. All right, multiple listing on the next page. This is what we know as the MLS, multiple listing service or system. This is what I call Craigslist for realtors, okay? One day I have to upgrade this word, Craigslist, because nobody uses Craigslist anymore, right? Craigslist for realtors. So the MLS is Craigslist for realtors. Why? Because this is where we advertise the properties. This is where we put properties for sale and expose it to other realtors. Okay? Craigslist for realtors. So this is not a separate contract as it says here, but rather a provision or a checkbox in the listing agreement that says you authorize the agent, the broker in this case, right, to put it on the MLS. So for property to be advertised on the MLS, you have to have some type of listing agreement, right? Now, guys, this is where for sale by owners fail. They don't go on the MLS, right? Some brokerages out there, they do have the flat fee listing where they charge you like $250 or whatever on the for sale by owner just to put on the MLS, right? But it's still not, it's growing in popularity, but it's still not that popular, right? Because for the brokerage, it's another $250 and we don't have to worry about anything, right? But for agents, how do you get paid, right? So those are our flat fee advertisements. Davis, O'Neill Davis. FB Marketplace now. Yeah, there you go. So it's the Facebook Marketplace for realtors. There you go. I think even that's not being used as much. I see more people advertising on TikTok than Instagram or Facebook. It's like it's gone. All right, TikTok just took over everything. Crazy. Here's a new house, right? Come and see it. Anyway, like a new way to communicate with kids. Sometimes I wonder, I'm talking to my daughters. My son for some reason doesn't do it, but with my daughters, the 11-year-old and the 6-year-old, I think they wake up already dancing to those moves. And I'm like, hey, how are you? Good morning. You know, it's kind of like, God, no real communication anymore. Anyway. All right. So, like I said, multiple listing is just a provision. Can we put on the MLS or not? That's all it is. Now, what you need to remember, because this might be a question, is that the MLS is an organization of member brokers who agree to cooperate in the sale of properties listed by other brokers in exchange for a share of the broker's resulting commission. So what we're saying is, when I put on the MLS a listing, I'm agreeing to share commission with the rest of you if you bring me a buyer. Okay? So I'll advertise the property I have for sale on the MLS, and then Poliana, if we bring a buyer, it says right here, 2% is the commission you get. Okay? Gilbert, if you bring a buyer, 2% is the commission you get. So the commission is not different based on which agent brings a buyer, right? Commission is set. I'm offering you a portion or a share of my commission. Now, why, guys? Why would I put on the MLS? Why would I advertise on the MLS if it's going to go to other realtors and not to clients or customers? It's going to go to realtors. Why would I do this? Why would I advertise in a place where there's others like me? What do you think? Andrea M says, because it's an organization. More sales, more money, better marketing, fast sale, more opportunity, more networking, okay? Whipping, more not exposure because there's no bombs here. Whipping, there's no bombs, there's no exposure, okay? Please don't say those things. We're being watched by the FBI and CIA and all that stuff, so don't say those things. But yes, more exposure. We're exposing the property to potential clients. But Bruno, you just said it's for realtors. Here's the thing. I do not know all the clients in the world, right? I probably have 2 or 3 people interested in a property like this, but that's not enough to have good offers. I need to have more. Now, when I advertise on the MLS, there's another 100,000 realtors that have 2 or 3 potential buyers. There you go. Now we're looking at 200 or 300 potential buyers for this one house. That's why we do it. It's for exposure. That's why for sale by owner, it's not always the best thing, because they don't have this exposure of agents that are hungry to get paid, right, and have potential buyers for that particular deal. Correct. Marlon, yes, a faster turnaround because we potentially have a buyer already for this type of property. I listed something yesterday, and as soon as it was active, somebody was already calling the office to go see the property. Go ahead, be a for sale by owner, put a sign on your yard and see if you get somebody calling the very same day or moment. It's difficult, right? All right, fulfillment and termination. Andrea says, that's why I said it's an organization. Focus on the sale. There you go. We all organize to focus on the sale. Yep. Fulfillment and termination. So agent's performance. So if you perform the listing agreement by achieving the results specified in the agreement, which is concluding the sale, right? Then your performance is complete because you're performing what you said you're going to do. So you found the customer, you effected a transaction, right? So now you're expected to get paid. You get a commission. Now, that means you need to find the customer. We talked the other day about ready, willing, and able customer, right? Ready, willing, and able. This is somebody ready and willing, meaning agreeing to the terms of the transaction. This is the house I'm ready to buy, and this is the house I want to buy according to the terms of the sale, right? Ready and willing. But then a lot of people are ready and willing. The question is, are they capable of paying? So able. Ready, willing, and able. Just because I want to buy a house doesn't mean I can buy it, right? So technically, what should be done, right? And I'll explain this later on in a different chapter. What should be done is always starting with the able. Then let's figure out if they're ready and willing to buy this one. Are they able? What is the max that they can buy? Okay, and it's the concept of I always talk about going to a restaurant, right? You go to a restaurant. Again, we'll talk about this in financing, chapter 17. But before you go to a restaurant, don't you make sure you have money, or you just walk out of the house, no wallet, no nothing, don't worry about it. The universe will provide. Because I know people like that. And when you get there, you're washing dishes. Universe don't provide. I'm joking. Everything aligns. Everything is good. Okay? But I still want to make sure I got money in case the universe does not provide. So you check your wallet, check your bank account, got to make sure, especially now, since March of last year, right? You better be checking your accounts just to make sure, because things got tough, really tough, right? So if you want to go to a restaurant, first find out if they're open, because it might have got tough for them too, right? Second, figure out the amount of money you got. And then you go. Simple. Am I going to show houses to somebody that doesn't know if they're qualified to buy? It's the biggest disappointment, guys. Let's imagine, let's say Gilbert. let's imagine, Gilbert, you're gonna go buy. We're gonna go see houses. We're gonna see 10 houses, right? Gilbert and I are. Oh, you wrote something. Pre-approval. Yep. So Gilbert and I, we're going to drive around, see a bunch of houses, and Gilbert says, "This is the one. Love it. Love this property." I'm like, great. I got a sale, right? I have a sale because Gilbert wants to buy this property that we just drove around and looked at. So Gilbert, let's go talk to the bank now. Let's figure out if the bank's going to give you money. This house is $500,000, and Gilbert says, of course they'll give me that money. My credit is great. I make a lot of money. We're good. And then we go, sit down with the mortgage rep, and the mortgage rep looks at your tax returns and say, hey, Gilbert, what this checkbox over here? Dude, if your score is 300, something is definitely wrong. Let's talk about it. But there's a checkbox in your taxes that I'm gonna just give you an example. Let's say you're or like Lewis. Lewis is a firefighter, so might have reimbursement on the uniform, it might not, as an example. There's a lot of loans that are done from the pension fund, as an example, right? These things, you make $200,000 a year, but then these things kill you in the value on your taxes. So when they review it, and these items are there, your approval for that 500 starts dropping. And then Gilbert, you make a lot of money, your credit score is great, but your DTI, or debt to income ratio, right? Because you drive the latest Mercedes out there, like you got a Maybach or whatever, right? You make a lot of money. You can handle this, right? Your DTI ratio, debt to income, does not allow you to buy a house because you're paying too much a month for that car. These are a lot of things. You cannot just show up and tell me, Bruno, I make a lot of money. I got great credit. It's not enough, right? It's the same thing as going to the restaurant. Guys, you got the money to go to the restaurant. I'm not telling you not to go. But if going to that restaurant is going to stop you from being able to pay your PSE&G bill, your electrical bill, then maybe you should not go. The money's in the account, but the bill's coming, right? So again, these are things you guys need to understand. We need to go first find out, get a pre-approval, so find out the able to buy, and then ready and willing. That's the way it should go. Jose just wrote, Craigslist still exists. Yeah, it does. And it still looks the same. Like it was built back in 1980s. Simplest website ever created. And he made a ton of money. All right, let's see. Andrea, I got a question. If the owner has everything Damn, where did this question come from? If the owner has everything a mess, dirty with rats, not bats, Andrea, right? Rats, because the bat died. We're good. Bat is dead, guys. We're good. So now it's the rats, and these are not ratteries, right? Actual rats, right? Okay. So what should you do? Now, are you talking about the owner of the house you're trying to buy, or are you talking about a landlord? Landlord, okay. Well, if there's pest issues, then it's endangering your life, health, and safety, right? You can actually get out of that lease if they don't fix the problem. You can either fix it yourself and then give them the bill, and depending on the state you're in, like state of New Jersey, allows you to repair and deduct, so clear the problem and deduct from the rent, and they cannot take you to court for that. Or you can just walk away from the lease and do, if you guys remember, we talked about constructive eviction, where you evict yourself, right? But never do anything without talking to an attorney first. You want to make sure you're doing it the right way. Okay? You see how we put a little disclosure at the end? Always disclosure. This is what you could probably do, but talk to an attorney. Okay. Lewis says, you're frozen for me. At least he said frozen. If he said hot for me, then I would be really, really upset at this. I'm not frozen, Lewis. I am moving. Am I frozen to anybody else? No? Okay. So it's you. Okay. This is the guy that puts out fires. I don't know. So just maybe get out of Zoom and come back. I'm not sure. Something on your end. Gilbert, does New York have that law? Every state has a law regarding constructive eviction. If your life, health, and safety is being endangered in any way, shape, or form, you're always able to get out of a contract. Okay, so a leasing agreement. All right, what about if the owner tries to sell the house in that condition? Hey, I'll buy a house that has rats. I got no problem. It's just going to be $100,000 less because I have to deal with a pest problem. Got no problem with that. Actually, I went to see a property not too long ago, and the unit that I went to see was vacant, right? Because that's the only thing we could see before the offer. But then one of the tenants was walking out. I'm like, hey, what's up? You know, I'm checking out this unit. I'm thinking about buying the 4-family here, and you mind if I ask you a couple of things? And the guy says, yeah, not a problem. Do you like where you are? I mean, do you have a month-to-month? Do you have a year lease? Are you looking to stay here long-term? Just want to know, because if I'm going to invest in this property, right, I want to know the kind of tenants that I might have, right? And he goes like, no, we want to stay here for long. So does there be any issues? Because I see this apartment is brand new. Just want to make sure. I was like, there was some bunch of ants, and not the American ants, okay? Because in England, for instance, it's called ants. Ants are, so we're talking about the actual, whole thing, that, so ants. Only in America, ants and ants are the same. But anyway, so, and we had some mice also in the property. I'm like, oh, okay. So do you still have that problem, or like? So I took advantage that the tenant was coming out to ask a lot of questions. Now the advantage, since you're asking me, would I still buy would the landlord sell the property still while they're selling? And I'm definitely willing to buy, but not for the listed price, because now I know it has issues. The tenant spilled the beans. He told me everything, right? And it's cool because I want that tenant to stay. Does that make sense? So now I know more. I will buy with the rats as well. Not a problem. Discount. Gilbert, deduct from rent law. No. So every state has something regarding the repair and deduct. You have to know what your state says, but in Jersey, you are allowed to repair and deduct. It's specific in Jersey law that you are allowed to repair and deduct, okay, from the rent. Okay. All right, next. Talked about this compensation. We also talked about it. I did mention compensation, maybe in the form of percentage of the sale or lease price, right? Covered it. Or it could be a flat fee. We also cover that. Procuring cause. What does it mean, procuring cause? We're on at the end of page 159. Procuring cause, you guys need to understand, when you see this word, procuring cause means you are the one that found the buyer that's willing to buy. And that's what makes you be able to go after commission if it's sold while the listing was in effect. Okay, so you're the first to find Pollyanna, right? First to find the customer, being the one who induces the customer to complete the transaction. Right? Next page. Compensation for buyers, brokers. That means you're representing the buyer. Sorry, guys, just 1 second. My keyboard's fighting with me. All right. All right. Compensation for buyers, brokers is when you bring a buyer, so you're entitled to be compensated. We agreed to that previously. Listing terminates. How do you terminate a listing? Well, you closed. It's impossible to close. By mutual agreement, by revocation, you abandoned it. Breach of the terms, expired. Contract is not valid. Incapacity of either party. Involuntary title transfer. Destruction of the property. So we talked about this in contracts. These are reasons to terminate anything. Right? So just a quick review right here. In most states, open listings do not require a stated expiration date. Listing agreements. This is very important. Listing agreement must specify a termination date and may not have an automatic renewal. So for a listing to renew, means that we sat down before the expiration and said, hey, would you like to renew for another 2 months, for another 3 months, 6 months, a year? But it has to be by agreement, not automatic. Okay? Cover that. Now, this is just a brief overview. It's not heavily tested, but it's a brief overview. If the client cancels the agreement, so they revoke the agreement, if it's mutual agreement, then guys, right, Stephen? If it's a mutual agreement, then that's it. You cannot sue me and I cannot sue you. We both agree. But if you cancel, right, then I might be able to get compensation. So depending on the type of agreement we have, another reason why this is important to know exclusive right to sell, exclusive agency, or open, is that in an exclusive right to sell, I might be able to go after the whole commission. In exclusive agency, I'm only able to go after costs. So, actual costs, so everything. Broker's costs, and then if it's open, not liable at all. If it's open, not liable at all. Okay? No liability. If you back out, then the seller or the buyer, in this case we're talking about listings, can sue for money damages. If you back out, they can sue you for money damages. Okay? All right. Listing agreement clauses, guys. Let's skip this real quick because we already covered all these. Obviously, there should be a description of the property. We should be able to identify with our fixtures and where are not. You guys should know this by now. And what is personal property that might be included? I really like the couch. Is it included? You know, the furniture, is it included? Sometimes it's staged, right? Can we include the personal property with it, right? Listing price, obviously. Listing terms. So it should say for how long it is, for instance. All right? We cover that. Your agent duties should be in what people can expect from you. That's how we started this chapter. Agency law, what they can expect from you. What are you going to do? for them, right? Compensation has to be there. Okay, is it going to go on the MLS or not, right? Are you able to cooperate with other brokers? In fact, every state has a rule regarding this, that you are supposed to cooperate with other brokers. So somebody, let's say I'm the seller and I list with you, Pollyanna, and then let's say Lewis is bringing a buyer. Can you say no to Lewis? Don't bring your buyer because you're from a different agency? No, we have to cooperate with other brokers. So the clause requires the seller to either agree or refuse to cooperate with subagents. Again, the seller determines if you're going to work with other agencies or not. It's just that some states require you to have a separate form that says, as a seller, I don't want you to work with other agents. And I understand the consequences. So I might have to sign something when I'm telling you not to work with them. Okay, so I might have to sign something that allows you to reject them. Other than that, every listing must be met with cooperation. Non-discrimination, dual agency, you guys know what it is. You represent both parties. All right. We're now on page 164. And guys, some of the stuff I'm going really fast because we already either covered it right earlier in our conversations, or we are about to cover in a different chapter. Seller's property condition disclosure statement. You guys remember, we have to disclose. This was part of agency. One of the ways, if you guys remember, Not My Monkey, right, the video that I played for you guys, one of the ways for you to reduce liability is by having the seller, right, Brenda? By having the seller, stop throwing stuff at your mom. Having the seller, not at your mom, okay, somebody else. Having the seller fill out a property condition disclosure. What does that mean? It's the seller saying, hey, potential buyer, the roof is 30 years old. It's about to collapse. Hey, potential buyer, the furnace does not work. Hey, potential buyer, I don't see any apparent damage with the property to the best of my knowledge. The house is great. So a seller's property condition disclosure statement is a seller giving their opinion of their current property to the best of their ability. What do they know about it? Do you, the agent, know the condition of the house that you never lived in? No. So to protect us, we ask the seller to prepare that. Okay, seller's condition, property condition disclosure statement. Okay, and then the buyer has to sign off that they received it. Every single listing should be met with this agreement. Okay, and that is pretty much it. Exclusive agency for the buyers. This is on the buyer side. It has nothing to do with listing. I don't know why they put it here, but it has nothing to do with listing. And we covered, and that is it. We're going to go into a quick break. Okay. Any questions before we go into a break? Nope. No questions. There's never any questions. It's nice. I would love to take courses and not have questions. Guys, letting you know right now, the more questions you ask, the easier it will be at the end. So make sure questions you might have, write them down, and then address it. It'll be a lot easier than, Pollyanna, we talked about this, than being at the end. Okay? A lot of people will struggle at the end. It just makes it harder. So ask questions as we go. Okay? Gilbert, I'm texting you a question. Right now, related to the class? No? Okay, so I'm talking about questions related to the class. Those are the questions you ask. All right, guys. So it's 7:30. I'm going to give you guys a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 7:40, okay? 7:40, we are back. See you guys in a bit. YouTubers, I'm going to close this session and open another one. Be right back.